Hello and welcome to another episode of Slice and Dice, the e-commerce podcast by us, the team here at ClickSlice. I'm Josh, the founder of the agency.
And my name's Richard and I head up our Google Ads team.
And in this episode, what we want to do is discuss the different strategies for new versus established Google Ads account. So, Richard, what would you say are the key differences in approach when setting up a new ad account versus an established ad account?
Yeah, so there are some differences in approach that we recommend to clients, or that are just maybe just a necessity rather than recommendations. And I think if you're working with an account that already has historical data, then you're at an advantage because you can identify what has and hasn't been working, and you can use those insights to, in our case, when we take over an account from a client who's been running ads already, we like to typically create fresh campaigns from scratch within the account, but we look at the performance of the account campaigns that have already been running and to see what's been working and what hasn't, and we might steal certain aspects of their existing setup and then incorporate our own ideas. So yeah, that's a kind of ideal situation, but obviously a lot of people who want to advertise on Google are new to Google Ads and don't have the luxury of historical data. And in those situations, there's a bit of a period where you kind of just have to throw a bit of money at it and see how things pan out. And I know that sounds quite unscientific, and that's not generally our approach. It's obviously a performance marketing channel, so we're all about data and the numbers, but you have to start somewhere. And we obviously do a lot of research before we get to the stage of launching a campaign, and we have a reasonable understanding of some expectations of what we might see as far as performance is concerned, but you never really know for sure until you kind of get started. So yeah, it's very much for a new account, you're in an experimental phase for the first few months. It can vary, and then you switch over to a kind of more data-driven approach.
Sure. And how would that differ for a keyword strategy for a new account versus an existing account that has loads of historical data?
Yeah, so with as we've mentioned in the past, keywords now, there's much more of an onus on negative keywords versus actual keywords themselves. So you're telling Google what not to show your ads for rather than what to show your ads for. So if you've got an account with a lot of history, then you can review something called a search term report, and that just shows you exactly what search terms people have typed in that have produced an ad impression or that your ads have shown against, and that can be really insightful in directing you towards what search terms produce the highest number of sales or the highest value sales, and can really guide your kind of optimizations. And awesome. If you're starting out, you don't have that luxury, unfortunately.
It's just how it goes though, right?
So
there's gonna be a lot of brands, right, that are watching this that are just starting out, that have just made the Google Ads account last week, right? And they're probably thinking what is the quickest way to get this data? Because I know how valuable data is, but how do I get it? So what would you say the quickest way is to accumulate that data that you can use to grow your account?
There are a couple of tools that Google has at your disposal to try to, like I mentioned a minute ago, how we try to do as much research as we can before we ever launch a campaign. And some of the tools we use for that might be something like a keyword planner, and that's a tool that Google offers for free that tries to give you some forecasts as to how many search impressions or what the search demand might be for any given keywords that you tell Google to use for its research. So that can be really insightful to get some insight before you actually spend any money. Same with a performance planner. If you have have a campaign, maybe even if you just have a small amount of data in a campaign and you want to launch another campaign or that's similar but not quite the same or in a different market, then or maybe you want to launch a different product line, you can tell Google or like use this tool to ask Google how it would predict performance to be based on the performance of a campaign that you already have. Or if I were to increase the budget, for example, on even if you weren't launching a new campaign, but you wanted to change something about an existing campaign, you can say, oh, if I was to double my budget, what could I expect the performance to be? If I were to expand the targeting to include this country, what could I expect the performance to be? So they're two really valuable tools. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think not a lot of people use it. They're trying to go to the third-party places, get the data, and it's right there in your Google Ads account.
Yeah.
It's actually insane. So what about bid strategies, right? Like that's obviously going to evolve and differ as you run your account for longer and get more data points.
So yeah, there are definitely instances where you might change your bidding strategy as the account matures, and that's really a side effect of just having more data. So to start with, if you're running a search campaign, for example, you might want to, in the very early stages, adopt a manual CPC bidding strategy, just because Google doesn't have the data to understand your conversion rates to target maybe like a target ROAS bidding strategy. So you might start with that, and then as you got some data, you might then transition a month or two down the line to target ROAS. With shopping and PMax campaigns, you actually don't really have a choice. You have automated bidding strategies. With shopping, you can do a target CPA or a target ROAS, and then with PMax, you just have ROAS, or target ROAS. Yeah.
No, awesome. It's interesting how they differ per different campaign type, right? So what I like to do is take the conversation back to the other side now. So we talk about like new accounts, what they can do. So what about an established e-commerce account that saw lots and lots of growth in the last 2-3 years, and now, as expected, the growth has plateaued, right? It's not declining, it's not really inclining, but it's just plateaued. What could they do to reignite their performance and get better results?
Yeah, so I think obviously there's only so much search demand or consumer demand, if you're talking about the Performance Max, where people might not actually be searching for any given product type. So you will find a ceiling eventually. And I think what advertisers can do if they start to plateau a bit is try to experiment with different creative. So and we've mentioned before about split testing and like minor tweaks versus really big variances. And our suggestion is often to try some drastically different assets, try some different landing pages, and just see if that can produce some better results. And also you have to remember with PMax specifically, if you're using a particular creative, there's a bit of fatigue on the consumer side. If they're seeing the same image like 10 times a day, users or consumers like switch off and become a bit kind of blind to that after a while. Whereas if you then throw in a new creative, it catches people's attention again, and you sort of 100%. Can re-engage them. So that can be effective.
Awesome. So my last question then is kind of for brands that are in that transitional period where they are not a new account, they're not really established, the account's getting more mature and they're getting more data and insights over time, right? How would the use of campaign types differ as they start to run the account for longer?
Yeah, so the answer to this is similar to a previous answer that I gave, in that you might want to consider starting with more of your budget in search and shopping, and then over time transition that to Performance Max, which will incorporate search and shopping anyway as part of that effort.
No, awesome. I don't have anything else to add, unless you have anything else on your side.
No, I think the main thing for listeners to bear in mind is that we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a kind of deeper conversation, then obviously, yeah, that's always an option.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if you guys like the length of these podcasts, we're trying to keep them short and just full of value, not kind of stuff them with fluff and make them 1 hour long like some other podcasts out there. So let me know if you enjoy this. You want to be a bit longer, maybe a bit shorter. Drop your comments below in the comment section and we'll read them and take them on board going forward. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one.